All right, so this is Lisanne Basquiat, the owner of Hera Hub Carlsbad, and I am on today having an interview and conversation with Laura King, longtime Hera Hub member and an intellectual property attorney. I'll tell you a little bit about her and then we'll get into the conversation. Laura is a registered patent attorney and she's helped hundreds of companies and universities to protect their intellectual property. She works and represents clients both in domestic and international patents, trademarks and copyright protection, right to use studies, negotiation of patent licenses, and non-disclosure agreements. She also represents clients in opposition and infringement cases before the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board and federal courts in California and Texas. Also the International Trade Commission, as well as inter-parties review proceedings before the Patent Trial and Appeal Board. Laura King is the founder and lead attorney, is that correct?
Yes.
Of the Matrix Law Group. And specializes again in patent prosecution and litigation, trademark, copyright, procurement, and protection. And so that's a bit of a mouthful. And I wanted us to have this conversation today, Laura, so that we could bring some clarity to business owners, local business owners, on what it is that they need to be thinking about as we become more and more of a digital world, especially as it relates to business. And so given what's going on in the world today and the fact that even more of our lives and businesses are happening online, you and I thought that it'd be a great time for us to have a conversation about this and share some tips to business owners.
Right. So the best advice I could give during this pandemic is that you really need to protect and enforce your intellectual property rights. As you mentioned, everything is going digital. It's very, very easy to steal your images, your content. Somebody just needs to know where to look and they can cut and copy and paste. One thing I do tell people is to, if you've got content online, to watermark it. So for example, if you're posting videos, you want to put something in the corner with your logo, your company name, something like that to make it, people can still steal your intellectual property, but it makes it harder. People will maybe think twice before they post something with your name on it.
Yeah, can we take a couple of steps back to talk about what intellectual property actually is? What constitutes intellectual property? And I'm asking because I know people who years ago, and I won't name names, but I remember many years ago someone saying that if you mail something with a stamp on it, it becomes your intellectual property. And so it's kind of this thing that is very, very important for protection and to reserve, to preserve your information. But I'm not sure that a lot of people understand exactly what it is. So
Right.
could you, let's start there.
Okay, sure. So it sounds like what you're talking about is, and I've heard this too, it's for copyright protection. So if you write something down and mail it to yourself, it's copyright protected.
Is that
which
real?
is not true at all, which is an urban myth. So as far as intellectual property, there's divisions of it. A copyright is a protection for something that you write, like a book, maybe a video that you produce, a photo that you take, something that can be fixed and tangible. So copyright rights are actually come about when you do the work. So when you take the picture, you've got rights in the picture, and these are something called common law rights. And you can enforce these rights or make them stronger by getting a copyright registration with the U.S. government. which
Okay.
is a pretty straightforward thing to do. They do have a website that you can register a copyright. I think right now it's $55 in government fees. Takes about 6 months to a year to get. I always recommend to register a copyright that's important to you, because once you do have a copyright registration, you can get attorney's fees and statutory damages if somebody infringes your rights, or if somebody steals your photograph, uses it without your permission. So that's a pretty cheap insurance, $55 government fee, pretty straightforward and easy to get. There's also something called trademarks. So trademarks more protect a brand name, a logo, and you could put people on notice that you have a trademark by putting a TM, and that gives you common law rights for trademarks. Stronger rights are if you go through the United States Trademark Office, get a trademark registration. That makes your copyright, your trademark enforceable in all over the United States. And
Let's
then,
talk a little bit, I'm sorry, let's talk a
sure.
little bit more about the trademark thing, because, you know, and I've had some practical experience with this, as you know. Um, there are people who will create a business. You know, they'll form a business entity and they will decide that they are going to name that business entity, I don't know, coffee. I don't know. And excuse me. And in naming that company, you know, the Main Street Hardware, let's just use that. And then they'll go ahead and create, you know, get a domain for it and start marketing under this name, and then run into an issue where someone else could actually start to, you know, have operate in this business. Sorry. That's what happens when you're my phone is ringing in the background. That's the world of the pandemic and Zoom calls. Having a situation where someone else can actually come in and use your information. So I have a very practical experience of that, in that I started a company, and I knew that I was going to be using the name of this company both on social media and in marketing materials and on products, and wanted to make sure that no one else could come along um, and take that name or create things under the name of that company. What why should a person trademark? And I'm kind of explaining the reasons why, but what are the legal reasons and what are the ramifications to not doing that?
Sure. So there's really two things you want to think about when you're thinking about a brand name or a logo. You want to think about, first, is anybody else using the exact same brand name or logo? You don't want to run into somebody with prior rights that will shut you down after you've spent time, money, effort in getting your brand up and going, only to find out somebody already has the name. You have to stop. And the second reason is, as you alluded to, you want to protect your company. You want to prevent other people from using the same name, same logo, same tagline. And to do that, you can get a registered trademark, and that you can usually by sending a simple cease and desist letter to somebody. It can stop if somebody is using a name that's similar or very close to your name. You can stop. And
Awesome.
this is something I've actually been seeing quite a bit the past few months, is people, when they're pivoting now, they're opening new businesses. So there's a lot of demand for trademark registrations.
Really?
And so you want to do your due diligence, make sure nobody else is using the name. There is a search engine on the trademark website, the uspto.gov. You can do a search for people with names that are the same or similar, and kind of figure out where the field is, and if there's somebody that might complain.
Great. You also mentioned, so that's interesting that there were a lot more requests for trademarks now during the situation that we're all in, and And I would imagine that it is because people are having to be creative um, about what they're doing and what they're offering. So I think that's actually really good news,
Yes.
you know. Um, so what are some of, you mentioned that watermarking your information, your videos, et cetera, and photos is one thing that you want to think that a person, you would want a person to think about. What are some of the other mistakes that you see people making with regard to not protecting themselves?
I see a lot of content on websites that is just really easy to copy and paste. And I know there's ways that, and I don't know what they are, but well, web developers can actually, encode or embed so that people just can't copy and paste your content.
Okay, that's a big one. Anything else?
You can also copyright websites. So you get the same protections if you file a federal registration copyright for your website and somebody steals the information from that, you can go after them too for copyright infringement.
So do you want to register your, your website, or do you copyright the content on your website?
So yeah, you can do a copyright registration for your website, and it's good as long as you don't have any major changes to your website. But
Okay.
every time you do a major change to your website, you can file another copyright registration. And again, it's $55 government fee. It's pretty cheap and easy protection.
So putting copyright with the year at the bot in the footnote by the privacy policy, et cetera, does that constitute copyright protection at all?
That gives you common law copyright protection, so it doesn't give you the statutory damages if somebody steals your information. So you won't get attorney's fees, or there is a minimum statutory damage for infringement that you can get if you do have a registration.
Okay. So if this is a site where there's commerce involved, you're probably going to want to invest the money into either hiring an IP attorney like yourself, or going ahead and doing the work of getting that copyright taken care of.
Yes.
Okay, great. Um, Anything else you want to share that you're seeing or that people really want to be mindful of?
Um, I do another branch of the intellectual property world is patents. So patents protect usually something that is new and improved over existing products. Um, so the Patent Office has a lot of deadlines. They have uh, extended deadlines for payment during this time, but there are deadlines that they probably won't extend, like filing after public disclosure. You have 1 year to file. Um, People are running into problems now because they can't either get back into the lab to get their results to file an application.
Mm-hmm.
So they're running into these deadline problems. And right now there's nothing that we can do to extend those deadlines.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised to hear that. I would think that even the government has extended the time to file.
Right. Yeah. It gets complicated because it has a lot to do with international law also.
Okay.
So the U.S. law conforms to a lot of other international countries that we're treaties to. So we can't just unilaterally, decide to extend all these deadlines. But maybe in Europe that they have the same deadlines that can't be extended.
Mhm. Excellent. Is there under what circumstances, and I know there are some things that people can, take care of on their own, and there's a DIY component to this. But under what circumstances should a person really go ahead and hire an attorney to help them?
It can get complicated for trademark matters. Everything is done online. It's been done online for a long time. So the trademark office hires their examining attorneys. They're all remote. There hasn't been any really delays or other hiccups with the pandemic. But it is not very self-explanatory, the trademark office website. So there, sometimes when you craft, when you write a description of your goods or your services, you want to make sure it's clear and not too narrow. Like if you had a trademark for, let's say, books, you
Mhm.
don't want to make it, you want to make it as broad as you can. So for books, rather than, um, let's say, doodle books or,
Mhm.
the coloring books or something like that, you want to
Mhm.
make it broad. Um,
So for trademarks, it's probably a good idea to engage an attorney or a firm such as yours, so that you know that you're working with people who are very accustomed to doing that work and can make sure that all the nuances are considered. I would imagine that that's also a great save of time. I know for me, it was. It was like, hey, Laura, I want to start this company. This is what we do. And then, just really easily being able to just answer some questions. It took a lot of time and energy away. I was able to devote that time and energy to actually building the business versus doing things that, that quite frankly, I'm not in a place or trained to do.
right,
So I think, with, especially with small business, do as much of it as you can do or as you feel comfortable doing. But there comes a point where you just want to go ahead and hire someone to do it for you. I mean, goodness, we do it for our hair. We might as well do it for a business.
sure, right,
I know I'm not standing in the mirror with my own scissors. That would be a disaster.
right,
So I
yeah,
think that it's important to call experts in, such as yourself, as you're building your business and really ensuring that your business is set up for success and foundationally sound.
right, yeah. And
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people do it yourself for trademark. It's ended up taking them years rather than months.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if there's something wrong with the application, there's a lot of back and forth with the trademark office, and that could take years.
Yeah.
And in that time, maybe somebody else is using the mark, and maybe there's somebody already has used it. So better get all that straightened out before you're too far down the line.
Yeah, there's an old saying, if you buy cheap, you buy twice. So you're better off doing it right the first time.
Right.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for sharing this information. I just want to also share with the audience that you are the intellectual property guru for Hera Hub Carlsbad. And so what that means is that you actually have office hours similar to what happens in college, where a person can reach out to you and schedule some time to sit down and chat about their unique questions, and to get their questions answered, and then also, excuse me, get their questions answered from you. During what hours are you doing your guru hours now?
So my hours are Wednesdays from 9 to 11.
Okay, every Wednesday from 9 to 11.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then if you go to the Hera Hub Carlsbad website in our events calendar, you will have a link there that'll tell you how to get in contact with Laura and how to schedule some time with her. Yeah. So thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.